welcome back to another video about a children's trading card game. And as you can tell by probably another very clickbaity title, we got more set 4 cards and we got basically a lot of Death Shadow stuff. We got stuff I'm way more excited for that I will come on to in a little bit. But yeah, we got some good shit to talk about today. Thank you, Sundar, my Simeon level supporter. Let's just get right into it. So today, Ikeda was just like, let me just give you 7 new cards. So he did. And they are just almost entirely cracked. Let's begin with Kaka of Death. So this is a level 0 Atlas unit. It's a 1/2/1, so pretty shit stats. It's a Death Shadow and a zombie. The 1/2/1 is like the only time that is going to matter is when you're swinging in directly to center and your opponent calls it cat, and that one attack is not going to be sufficient. So it's basically useless. But anyway, it's a Death Shadow and a zombie. So Death Shadow, we'll come on to why that's relevant later, but the fact it's a zombie means that this is another potential thing to be revived, another potential thing to sack off, to discard. There's synergies there. So, first ability, Praise the Death. Instant action, DR1, Death Shadow, or Zombie. Discard this card from your hand. Reduce the next damage dealt to you by 2. So, this is kind of better than the Darkness one. Now, obviously, the Darkness one, Vamel, is generic. You just DR any 2. This is specifically attributed, so how easy that's going to be is going to depend on, how many of these Death Shadows and Zombies you play in the deck. But I think it's reasonable to assume that this is going to be quite an easy bar to meet, especially considering all the healing and stuff we're going to be doing as well in this deck, which we will come on to. So this is a really, really strong effect. Just as a generic thing. But then it gets even better. Standard action, DR2 Death Shadow or Zombies, and you special summon this from your graveyard. So this is a unit which you can pitch, and you can just revive very freely. Now, immediately, I think I said this when we saw Death Shadow, but to me, it seems like it's probably going to be a Trickster deck, because that deck has 14 life, and you really want to give yourself lots of damage to work with here. And this is kind of supporting that to an extent. DR2 to revive, it's not bad. But, it is a 0/1/2/1. Like, the stats are pretty dog shit. So I definitely think you are mainly going to be using it for that first ability to reduce by 2, but it's still a really solid card. Next up, we will do the other level 0. So this is Mavet Gato. This is another Atlas level 0, 1/1/2. So immediately, if it's a level 0 with 2 strike, you need to be paying attention because that is scary. It is an Owl, Betrayer, and Death Shadow. And those are all really interesting. So, firstly, Betrayer. I think it's been made fairly clear that Betrayer is going to be the deck that's really waiting for Centurion or Vanquisher. So you can just play all the Betrayer cards and then support it with one faction's event lineup. So the fact that Betrayer is obviously going to be relevant here, but obviously Owl is really interesting because Owl already has 1 2-strike level 0. Now Owl can have another 2-strike level 0, which means I can have 8 2-strike 0s, which is really strong. That's a lot of potential damage that they can just output, right? And then it has the ability, when this deals damage to the opponent, choose up to 2 cards in your damage zone and turn them face up. So this is a 2-strike level 0 that you are incentivized to obviously just smack face, and it's basically counter-charging, and it's counter-charging too, which is a really solid effect. I think this could have been a 1/1/1, and we would have probably been like, okay, I get it, probably not worth playing. But at 2-strike, this suddenly goes from pretty mediocre to, I think, quite strong. So I'm definitely a big fan of this card. I think it's really, really solid, and I think you will definitely be playing it in multiple decks, not just Death Shadow. Then we come on to the sort of bulk of the Death Shadow support. So I'm going to save the best for last. First, we're going to go for Death Shadow spell Artar. So this is a Volnar level 2 event. Death Shadow, Magic, Darkness. So why are these relevant? Magic, I believe, can be banished with the Genesis Summon Kogaki to special summon thing. I'm pretty sure, but ignoring that. Darkness, it's another, a spell with Darkness is another Darkness attribute, and that is valuable. And it's a Death Shadow, which means if it ends up in the damage zone, you are able to DR it. And obviously Darkness-like synergies there. Timing standard action. DR2, Death Shadow, or Darkness. Choose 1 enemy card in play and destroy it. This card is nuts. I think this is a card that's just going to immediately be played in any Darkness and any Death Shadow deck. This is the only generic removal in the game. as of this point. As far as I'm aware, this is the only generic removal in the game. And, you know, DR2 is not like, I mean, it's expensive, right? Like, it's a level 2, and it's 2 DR as well. But, like, it has good attributes, and it's generic removal. And, like, you cannot sleep on how powerful generic removal is. As a result, I think this card is very, very strong. I think this is going to be potentially a 4 of even. Because, like, you know, you're going to be able to remove real threats that are really difficult to deal with. It's just so good, right? Like fields, because fields can potentially be an issue, and you can just deal with them with this. But even just big units, I think this is a really, really strong card. So let's then talk about why fields might be an issue with Goral, Sage of the Four Dead Horsemen. So this is a Volnar level 2. It's a 5/5/1, so there's a pretty nice stats. Death Shadow, Dungeon, Betrayer, Mage. Whole set of good attributes there. Of course, the main two are probably going to be Death Shadow and Betrayer. The Mage is probably going to be less relevant, and Betrayer might be relevant. But the ability. Death Shadow spell, Zakaria. Once per turn, standard action, put the top 3 cards of your deck into your damage zone. So, I'm not 100%, one thing to say is I'm not 100% sure. I will need to check. But I'm pretty sure, like, that can't kill you. Like, that damage cannot kill you. Otherwise, you'll immediately lose. So that is a potential knock on this card if you can't do that. But it might be that it checks after the resolution. I will double check and I will follow up on that. But either way, you take 3 damage essentially, and you put, right? You put, so you don't take damage. So you cannot like CNT check either. So it's entirely possible you will like hit 3 CNTs and that's just it. So relatively high risk. What's the reward? Special summon up to 2 Death Shadow from your damage zone with a combined level of 2 or less. So you are essentially taking 1 damage in order to make a board. That's really good. That's really strong. And arguably that is worth the sacrifice. Now, of course, you've got to then consider the risks, right? What are the risks with this card? Well, in a deck that is DRing so much, that that could potentially be a problem with ensuring you're going to be set up. The fact you're not taking damage, the fact you're placing cards, leaves you, it means you can get RNG screwed and you can just lose all your counters. And if you're really DR squeezed, you might not even have any valid targets. We're going to have to see how many valid targets of good combinations it's possible to get. The upside is you get access to potentially a very large damage zone as a full-on toolbox, and it's 1 damage to go +2. At the end of the day, that's quite strong. I think that's all we really need to say. You get a 5/5/1 in the center and potentially like two big bits of aggro. You just make a board out of nothing. You only take 1 summon cap. I think it's a really powerful card. Now I will need to test it. I think it's probably not as good as it seems on paper. On paper, oh my god, special summon 2 things for free. That's crazy. For 1 damage, that's insane. But I think in practice it'll be a little bit janky. But I definitely do think it's stronger. Okay, on to the boss monster of this whole archetype. Zakator, Fell Dragon Quadrarch of Death Shadows. This is a level 2, which I think is I think this is the first big dragon deck that's had a level 2 as a boss monster. So it's a Volnar level 2. It is an 8/4/2. So a level 2 with 8/4/2 on stats is already holy shit. Okay, 8 attack is monumental. 4 HP is not amazing, but it's annoying. And 2 strike is obviously good. Death Shadow, Dragon Lord, Betrayer, Demon Lord. Okay, so interesting attributes there. I believe this is searchable, as it's a Demon Lord with the skeleton from set 3. But it's obviously Death Shadow as well, it's got that attribute. Counter, if you don't have a Death Shadow or Darkness card in your damage zone, deal 2 damage to you. Now, one thing you're going to have to be really careful about with this card is that means if you have your entire damage zone flipped face down, you do not meet this requirement. So you could find yourself taking damage for no reason. So it's going to be very important that you get damage in your damage zone, and you always make sure you just have 1 ready, because you don't want to be taking 2 damage through this card. Okay, so that's a really bad counter effect, right? That's potentially that's a haunting level counter effect. So what am I getting for it? Okay, well, good stats and the following 2 abilities, or 3 abilities. Death Transcendence. Standard action, DR3, Death Shadow, or Darkness, special summon this from your graveyard. So the fact that this can basically be recurred, and as we're seeing with this deck, there's going to be a lot of ways to keep cycling through your damage. That's probably going to be something you can do fairly consistently. That's very powerful. Bringing back an 8/4/2 again and again and again and again, and the fact this is going to beat over everything. I think if this card had like Breakthrough, it would be another level strong. As it doesn't. I think this is also a very interesting potential card to be playing in Darkness decks for the mirror match potentially. Just as like another thing to just, like you can just bring it back because Darkness doesn't DR a lot, right? So this is just a thing. You can use your DR, you can be really efficient, you can keep bringing things back, and you can just keep shitting out your hand. I think that could be interesting. But obviously as a Death Shadow card, it's still obviously super good. So it self-revives. When it attacks, you put a card from your damage zone into the graveyard and take 1 damage. So immediately we're now seeing part of this cycle, right? So you DR3 to revive it, you swing with it, and you heal one of the cards you just DR'd, and you take another damage. That could potentially be a counter that is going to influence the rest of the turn, but so you're doing a lot more counter checks immediately, right? Like through this card. And that is going to be very relevant. And it ignores effect damage, which means it's not getting Lucifered. You are going to be able to like do things with it. And it's not going to be like removed through effects in that way. And that's a really, really valuable effect. And remember, this can be placed in defensive, so it can be a little bit beefy, though obviously it can be hard popped, and there is popping around. Overall, I think I'll just quickly give my overall impressions of the Death Shadow archetype before I move on to the final 2 cards. I think it's looking very, very interesting. As I kind of had it in my mind, it is the least interesting to me of the 3. And I think that as exciting and interesting as it looks, I definitely think my impression is whilst there's a lot of powerful cards and a lot of interesting tools, and it seems like it'll be fun to play, I definitely think it's going to feel quite janky. My inclination at reading these cards is that this might feel a little bit janky. However, it's super early. We've barely seen any of the cards, right? We've seen 5 cards. And obviously, that doesn't even make half a deck. So we're going to need far more to see exactly how good it's going to be. And we're going to need to see the new rulers as well, because there's potentially some interesting synergies there. So that's very exciting, obviously, to see those. But that's my initial impression. Let's go through the final 2 cards, which are both 4 stars, and they're both Atlas 4 stars. So first we'll go into the less interesting one, I suppose. And so Johann, Plunging into Darkness Prodigy. So this is Atlas level 1. It's a Science Mage Darkness 0/0. It has Abyssal Summoning, and it ignores effect damage. So very simply, this is just a better version of Skyline Magus from set 2, which was a level 1, I think it was like a 1/4/0 that had Abyssal Summoning. So the idea with Skyline Magus was it was a level 1, so if it like got nuked, you were like less sad because it was a low level, so you could probably call something else and still Abyss Summon. This is strictly better because it's ignoring effect damage, so the only forms of removal that are going to do anything to it are hard removal, and more importantly, it's a darkness itself. So it's another darkness, it's a level 1, which is obviously really, really nice because you don't have that many level 1s typically. And overall, it's just a straight better version. I think exactly what's going to happen is you're going to take your copies of Skyline Magus, you're going to put them in your binder or in your box, and then you're going to take your 4 copies of Johann and you're going to put them into your darkness deck. And that's basically how it's going to go. This is an instant 4 of, card is strong. Finally, the card I am most excited for, and one of the nice chunk of Alice support we are getting in this set. I think potentially the largest amount of Alice support we're getting to date. And this card is really, really good. So this is A7, Queen of Hearts. This is an A7 Robotic level 3, 4-star unit for Atlas. It is a 5/5/3. Okay. So for level 3, those stats aren't anything super good. 3 strike is obviously very, very nice, but 5/5 is kind of whatever. All right. Discount. If you have 2 or more A7 or Alice in play, you may pay a cost of 1 to play this. Now, obviously, 2 or more potentially could be a little bit rough to get that discount live. However, once that discount is live, this is really, really scary, right? And this is going to be at its best when you do have 3 units, so when you do have 2 units already on the board, so it does kind of make sense. But yeah, for 1, you're getting a 5/5/3, that's insanely strong. And of course, remember that Alice is a unit that lets you normal summon things during your opponent's turn. It essentially gives your entire A7 suite Sentinel summoning. So you can imagine this suddenly being a 1 cost with Sentinel summoning, a 5/5/3 is quite good. Doesn't stop there. It also has this ability, First Sentence, Judgment Traitor. Once per turn, at the end of this card's attack, choose 1 ally unit in defensive zone and you may replace it with this. Now, the implication seems to be that it will come out as stand, and I think there's a few rulings that need to be clarified about exactly how that works when you bring something out of the defensive, because if it goes to stand, then there's issues with cards that rest themselves as a cost and aren't once per turn. But assuming it works as intended, and it'll get clarified, this is really, really good. This is actually going to enable Alice Wizard to have like a 10 damage board. That's possible. You will need 2 of these Queen of Hearts to do it. But you can swing with your 2-strike your level 2 Alice. You can swing with your ruler. That's 4. Swing with your A7 Queen of Hearts. Sub it out for your A7 Queen of Hearts that's in the center already, and swing again. And you're actually managing to have some aggro output. Now, not always going to be that. Typically, it's probably going to be the level 1 check top 2 Alice. I found like that's like you're having a lot. That's really going to be a really common one. But the point is, this is additional aggro. It's like additional attacks, and it's putting itself in the center as a big beefy 5/5. And if set 3 meta has shown anything, it's that 5 HP is really good. And you know what else is really good? 5 attack, because 5 HP is really good. So, we're in this era where 5 HP is really strong and 6 HP is really, 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 really strong. Like 7 HP is like kind of just as good as 6 HP for all intents and purposes nowadays. And like it's that 5 and 6 are like 2 thresholds that just get so much better if your unit can hit them. So I think this is a really, really powerful card. And when you consider the other synergies around Alice, I think it gets even better. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I'm also very biased because I think Pink Alice is like a really, really strong deck right now, even though like no one's playing it. And I also just want the deck to be good because it reminds me of my favorite deck from Mavet's previous game, which is Black Organization. However, that being said, I definitely think this card is really, really strong. And it solves a problem that the deck had, which was like aggro. It like was super defensive and it didn't have much damage output. So your games turn into this grind fest. If we get a few cards with just 2-strike, even just some level like a level 0 with 2-strike would be like really, really good, or like a level 1 with 2-strike at least. Those kind of cards, I think that will go a long way. And it's worth saying on this final aside on Alice cards, we are confirmed to be getting the full suite of the A7. Which at the moment we have 4 of, and we just got confirmed Queen of Hearts, and we know that White Rabbit is going to be one of them, so there's still 1 left. And in addition, we're getting 3 new versions of Alice. So there are still 5 new support cards to be revealed, 1 of which we've seen the artwork for, and 4 completely new ones, 3 of which are going to be Alice's. So there's a lot of interesting Alice support to come, and this is not, it's not even including events, and I hope there's at least 1 or 2 of those. Give me a searcher, for the love of God, please give me a searcher. For level 2. But yeah, I think a very, very exciting time. Overall, though, I'm really hyped with these reveals. I think there's a lot of really interesting cards here, a lot of stuff that I really just want to sink my teeth into. It's 2 months away till the set comes out. Probably like a month till English even starts set reveal. Can we get some English official stuff so I can submit my pre-order, please? That would be great. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think of these cards in the comment section down below. If you want to join my Discord server, we discuss this stuff as it comes out. There's going to be a lot more card reveals coming out. Because we're going to be posting those, so expect probably 1 of these videos a week where I just go over the last week's worth of reviews. And probably like 1 deck profile a week, I think, or like 1 other video, like 1 set review thing or something like that. I'm going to try and get all those out before set 4 comes. I've got a bunch of things pre-recorded that I need to get through as well. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I already said that. Oh, stay tuned as well for news on the World Circuit. I believe the first rounds are probably going to be happening this weekend as of the time you're going to be seeing this. That's pretty cool. And hopefully we'll try and get those uploaded in some form. I'm going to be trying on uploading as well the Spain-Russia games when I have some time to do some editing on those. But yeah, that's it for the updates. I will see you guys in the next video. Cheers.